It's an historical irony that the most famous ship to have ever sailed was famous because it sunk. But that was the case with the RMS Titanic, then the world's largest and the most luxurious cruise liner. It hit an iceberg on its maiden voyage early on the morning of the 15th April in 1912. Within 3 hours, it had sunk to the bottom of the ocean, killing 1,500 of the ship's 2,224 passengers and crew. Titanic was one of the three Olympic-class ocean liners built at the Harland and Wolff shipyards in Belfast. The other two being the RMS Britannic and the RMS Olympic. The Olympic was launched a year before the Titanic but seemed to share its more famous sister ship's poor luck. Within months of its launch in 1911, it had two serious collisions. The second with Royal Navy cruiser HMS Hawke off the coast of the Isle of Wight, causing serious structural damage to the Olympic's keel and steel beams. Some authors have suggested that the damage to the Olympic was more serious than they admitted. In fact, it was virtually a write-off. Repairs would be very expensive, running into the millions of pounds. The already troubled White Star Line was facing a potential financial disaster. Could White Star and its owner J.P. Morgan have devised a incredible insurance scam to try and salvage their investment in a troubled Olympic line? The Olympic, the theory goes, would have been swamped with the Titanic and sunk in a stage accident. Now, the Titanic, now disguised as the Olympic, would then carry on in service. Now, the two ships were essentially identical, save for minor differences, and were moored side by side in dry dock. Now, the swap would be entailed nothing more elaborate than, swapping a few nameplates, plaques, and things of that nature. Could it really have been the Olympic that sunk in a Titanic's place? Okay, now, the swamp theory had pointed out some disparities in the number of portholes on the ships. You see, the Olympic had 16 and the Titanic had 14. Photographs taken of the Titanic in dry dock show it with 14 portholes. But by the time of its doomed maiden voyage, it now had 16. Just like the Olympic. Was this evidence that the ships had been swamped, or just they had added, two extra portholes as part of some last minute changes to the Titanic? Other evidence supports the switch, such as the windows on the Olympic were somewhat unevenly spaced, but more evenly spaced on the Titanic. Again, by the time of its maiden voyage, the Titanic had acquired unevenly spaced windows just like the Olympic. Okay, I'm going to take you back to that time frame so we can see what was going on within that time period. Here we go. Now, there was a nationwide coal strike during the launch of the Titanic. This had led to thousands of firemen, boilers, stokers, and greasers short of work. Yet, despite this, the Titanic struggled to find crew, with many men refusing to work on that ship at any price. Now, rumors were circulating amongst the workers that the ships had been swamped as part of an insurance scam, and Titanic was to be sunk. You see, this knowledge of the sinking of the Titanic frightened the men from wanting to work on that ship, despite the immense fanfare and hype that surrounded the Titanic at that time. You see, it was only just over a half full when it had left Southampton on its doomed voyage. You see, the White Star wanted to minimize the number of passengers because it was intended to be sunk. There was also last-minute cancellations from high-profile passengers too. You see, there were many rich and very prestigious names in the early 20th century society that were booked onto the Titanic. J.P. Morgan, the international financier who owned the White Star's parent company, was due to travel on the Titanic, but canceled his trip a few days before the departure, claiming illness. Sound like another 9/11 theory, huh? That's another video. But anyway, a New York Times reporter discovered this to be a lie because Morgan was seen perfectly well with his mistress in France on the very day the Titanic had sunk. Industrialist Henry Clay Frick and his wife, banker Horace J. Harding, and billionaire George Washington Vanderbilt, all connected to Morgan, were amongst several other prominent figures who also canceled at the last minute. Still think this a coincidence? Okay, now, the SS Californian was owned by JP Morgan. It was a large passenger ship that was ultimately blamed for the loss of the life on the Titanic. It behaved somewhat oddly around the time of the Titanic voyage. I mean, it wasn't carrying any passengers. It steamed into the middle of the Atlantic and just stopped and waited. Yeah. Its only cargo was about 3,000 wool blankets and jumpers. What was the purpose of it being there? Was the Californian intended to rescue the Titanic passengers after its deliberate sinking? One of the passengers, Edith Russell, a survivor of the sinking, was adamant that the Titanic officers assured her that the Californian was on its way. Also, as you know from the movie The Titanic, the lifeboats on the Titanics weren't sufficient to save all the passengers in the first place. So, with the California being unable to complete its rescue mission with the Titanic, it was doomed. And as you know, about 1,500 passengers and crew perished in one of the worst disasters in modern history because of that. Okay. You see, there was some strong evidence from the wreck that supports the switch as well. You see, the stamp 401, the ID number used for the Titanic at Harlan and Wolff, can be seen on the Titanic's propeller. However, some authors have suggested that the Titanic propeller was fitted to the Olympic during its repair following the collision with the Hawk, you see. Now, if this is true, this would be strong evidence that the vessel on the ocean floor was really the Olympic. Also, what appears to be the letters M and P can also be seen on the side of the wreck. Could that be the remains of the ship's original etched nameplate? OLYMPIC, Olympic, covered over the Titanic's as part of the scam. It also seems that the wreck appears to show some evidence of the gray paint used as an undercoat on the Olympic. The Titanic used black paint for its undercoat. So many coincidences. Believe it or not, insurance scams back in those days and now, hence 9/11. Yes, I said it again. Anyway, as I was saying, they were pretty common at the time of the Titanic sinking. And now, once again, I say again, 9/11. Even though it seems unlikely to pull off such a scam. But with the lack of media coverage in 1912, it makes it more credible to have been done. Okay, there's one more theory that I forgot to add with the 401 stamp. You see, the wreck of the Titanic was found in 1885, as we probably saw in many documentaries, and it provided some more evidence in favor of the swamp theory, too. I mean, the Titanic's identification was stamped in multiple places on the wreck, even on the furniture and artifacts. I mean, it was everywhere. I mean, could the swamp really have been so elaborate to include swampy furniture and decor between the ships too? Okay, there's more. You see, Titanic scholars and historians say the prominence of the insurance swap theory have overstated on how similar the two ships were. They were very much alike. There were several important structural differences as well. The changes made to the Titanic to distinguish it from its sisters. There are several internal differences in layout between the Titanic and Olympic. The first class A deck on the Titanic was enclosed in a glass screen, but was open on the Olympic. Titanic wheelhouse was flat at the front and the Olympic curved. Oh, and also because of the accident with the Hawk, it caused the Olympic to lean to the side. You see, JP Morgan was ready to get rid of that ship. It was costing too much money to fix it. So I believe that he conquered up this plan to have the ship sunk and then collect his millions thereafter and just be done with it. But unfortunately, things didn't go as well as he hoped. Are you starting to get the picture now? Or could this have been something far more sinister and or evil? You see, the priestess of Amun-Ra, who lived in 1050 BC. Now, according to legend, after her discovery in the 1890s in Egypt, the purchaser of the mummy ran into serious misfortune. The mummy was then reportedly donated to the British Museum, where it supposedly continued to cause mysterious problems for the visitors and staff. The mummy was eventually purchased by the journalist William, who dismissed the claims of a curse as quirks of circumstance. Now, the legend claims that he arranged for the mummy to be hidden under the body of his car for fear that it would not be taken aboard the Titanic because of its reputation. He reportedly revealed to other passengers the presence of the mummy the night before the accident. Official records state that the British Museum never received the mummy, only the lid of a sarcophagus, which is on display at the museum and is known as the unlucky mummy. But the Titanic was famously described as unsinkable. Well, this proved to be incorrect. Only a freak set of circumstances managed to sink it. I mean, think about it. Could plotters really engineered something so complex as to sinking of the world's largest vessel in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean? I mean, there are so many variables and so many things that could have gone wrong. How could they be sure that it would succeed? I mean, the White Star Line would have ruined its reputation if their flagship was sunk. You see, if their plan was discovered to have been true, the consequences would have been crucial. They would have been blamed for the deaths of 1,500 people, perhaps even charged with their murder. I mean, would the likes of White Line and JP Morgan, a billionaire who could afford any potential losses on the Olympic, really risk the outcome of an insurance scam? Huh? But then again, this did happen with the 9/11, and they knew they weren't getting caught. So, tell me in the comments below. Please like, not dislike, and subscribe. Oh, if you're not getting any notifications when I post videos, just click the bell next to the subscribe button, and you get the notifications. Other than that, have a blessed day.
Testimony of bombs in the building before the building collapsed, sir? Are you aware of that testimony? Sir, there's testimony by Barry Jennings. Sir, you don't have to touch me. Listen, I'll walk away. All I'm asking is a question. I don't have to be kicked out. It's a legitimate question. You don't have to put your hands on me. But all I'm saying is, no, I'm not. I'm here asking. The question was not answered. That's why I have a grievance. Okay. Larry Silverstein was told not to come into work. That's why him, his daughter, and his son never showed up to work on 9/11. He put an insurance policy on the buildings. Reporters, do your job. Please ask some questions. All right, so